The truth isn't positive or negative. It's just the truth. Now, here's some more of it. This is the Sports Source.
Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Calhoun's. The Vols don't play until 9 p.m. next Saturday, which is stupid. So for your viewing party, run by one of the 9 area Calhoun's locations and grab a Feed 5 or Feed 10 family pack like this. You can also order a takeout party platter. Take Calhoun's home. You don't want to be cooking for the friends and family that are going to be watching the game with you after 8 o'clock. Let Calhoun's do the cooking. Calhoun's, the taste of Tennessee. All right. I want to welcome in the next 2 members of our panel today. Right here we have Bob Hodge, and the other bookend down there is Chuck Cavaleras. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. This is our Hot Read segment. As you know by now, if you watch us every week, we have 2 questions, 1 for each duo. I will start with Bob and Will. Hang on, I'm going to show you some numbers before I get your opinion. But my question for you is, which unit was more impressive, the offensive line or the defensive line? Here's what the defensive line did yesterday. You see, Mississippi State had the league's leading rusher. And against the first 5 foes Mississippi State faced this year, averaging 5.5 yards per carry. Had over 300 yards of yards after contact. 5 touchdowns. Against Tennessee, 11 carries, 13 yards, a 1.1 yard per carry average, and no touchdowns. Also, Tennessee recorded 21 tackles for loss in their first 5 games combined. They had 10 yesterday. Finally, 6 of Tennessee's 7 sacks came from that defensive line. Now, what did the O-line do? Here are their rushing numbers on the year versus FBS foes, and you see it was the second best day to the BYU game, and you could say you're playing an SEC defense instead of a BYU defense. Allowed just 1 sack versus Mississippi State as well. Now, there were only 14 pass attempts for the Vols, so that factors into it as well. Bob, Will, which line was more impressive, offensive or defensive?
Defensive. It has to be. I mean, you had no pass rush up to this point in the season. You literally had guys that I said on Jimmy's show the other day that if they ran the quarterback draw, the good thing would be is the defensive line would still be at the line of scrimmage able to tackle him. But in this game, they were able to get pass rush. They were able to win one-on-one up-front battles, and they held a good running team that had come in with a lot of momentum and a running back that could break tackles, and they were able to hold it. So I have to say that from where they came in the previous every game. I mean, this wasn't just against Georgia. This was against Georgia State.
And they weren't that great against Chattanooga.
Yeah, they were not able to get pass rush. So saying that they came into this game and were able to win those one-on-one battles, this made a huge step for this group. I think a lot bigger, even though the offensive line played well, it was a much bigger change for the defensive front.
I'm going to share everybody agree Will is wrong. I really thought, and everything you said is right about the defensive line. But the offensive line played well the entire game, and as you all talked about in the first segment, that last drive, when Tennessee absolutely had to do something, Tennessee hadn't had an offensive line, I don't think, against a quality team, an SEC team, that is able to do that. And I was kind of afraid that both lines would fade a little bit in the fourth quarter. We've seen that time and time again. Well, one, the defensive line really didn't, although Mississippi State started getting some offense. But what the offensive line did in the fourth quarter, after already having a good game and then being able to just come down there and dominate Mississippi State. So even though the defensive line by far its best game, I think the offensive line's improvement seems more real to me.
Okay. So let me ask you different. Projecting forward, which line do you feel better about?
Offensive line.
I feel better about the offensive line as well.
I still feel better about that because they've shown more consistent play. This is a one-game blip. Can the defensive line continue that to another
let's
game?
Let's see it 2 or 3 games.
And what's rough about this is the whole idea of carrying momentum over. You got Alabama next to it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's bad fate. That's a bad fate. Chuck and Jimmy, we said late in last week's show that UT would likely need Garantano again. Specifically said, look at these. I mean, Maurer was knocked out twice last week. Knocked out again yesterday. Let me put up their numbers. There you go. That's what they did yesterday. Who had the better game, first of all? Because I'm seeing a lot of people saying that Garantano wasn't asked to do anything. And Pruitt kind of poo-pooed him at the end of the game. Or said, well, we didn't ask him to do much. Now, you asked him to do as much as Maurer, and he did it better. who had the better game? Am I right or am I wrong?
Well, I mean, the key difference on that, isn't it? 2 interceptions. I mean, didn't turn the ball over, was more of the classic, game manager. Jimmy mentioned how very careful they were with Garantano not to be throwing the ball in certain situations. So, I mean, you'd have to say Garantano did.
You agree, Jimmy, or no?
I do. I think it was Garantano. And, yeah, they didn't ask him to do a lot at the end of the half, and they didn't ask him to do a lot at times in the second half. But he also was the engineer of that touchdown drive. And here's the thing that I don't know. Maybe I'd say we don't know. How many times did he make any kind of move or check at the line of scrimmage to make sure they were in the right running play? But I'll say this. When it was a third down play, he hit Jordan on a first down, and then he threw the touchdown pass to Tyler Byrd. And that drive, to me, sealed the deal for Tennessee. I'd go Garantano.
And his only incompletion on the day, it was high, but Jennings got both hands on it. So
Yeah.
he was pretty accurate yesterday. Let's say Maurer is healthy. We don't know that concussion protocol. That thing could go one more day. It could go 3 weeks. You don't know. But if Maurer is healthy, what's your plan at quarterback for Alabama and beyond?
I would start Garantano. I would. He's been in a lot more big games with Tennessee. I know his record isn't very sparkling. Maurer scared me with those end zone interceptions that he threw. I think that there have been too many times he's made questionable decisions. Even against Florida, when he went in the second half, he threw into triple coverage a couple of times.
I'm probably, if Maurer's healthy, going to stick with him because I'm thinking maybe Garantano is better right now coming in off the bench. And if he starts and it doesn't go well and Maurer's not 100%, are you down to your third option? So I mean, but that's a lot of ifs in there, John. Sorry, but that's just what I would approach it.
Yeah, I don't have a clear answer. I mean, I don't know where you're going because I don't know that Garantano is going to be.
One thing, they need to teach Maurer to slide. They need to teach him to get down.
Well, I don't know that Garantano is going to be the same Garantano we saw yesterday.
No.
The next
either.
game, and Maurer, people fell in love with that first half against Georgia. 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. In the 2 halves he's played since then, the game, if you will, no touchdowns, 3 interceptions for about 100 yards passing. And they weren't asking him to do much yesterday. So you have to factor in, if you're throwing touchdowns in the end zone, interceptions in the end zone, that's going to drive the coaches wild.
You got to throttle it down in the red zone, right? I mean, you can't afford that, especially with Jeremy Pruitt as your coach.
I think this first half against Georgia, we looked at it and said, well, these coaches didn't know what they had over there. Now, after the second half against Georgia and the first half yesterday, you may say, oh, this is why they weren't quick to pull the trigger because all these guys are kind of similar. We'll see. All right, we'll talk more about Maurer and his durability a little later in the show. Next up, who are the 3 best Vols on the field yesterday? Who are the 3 worst? That might be hard to find. Plus, some guys who've been much maligned. It wasn't a youth movement yesterday. Come on back, we'll discuss.